All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Decided to add one more video to help everybody out with our series that we have here on low points. So we're going to go into one of the last pieces, which is actually managing the amount of down or the depth of what low point is. I think the first thing when we go into this is understanding what is the depth of low point, okay? So if we took a golf ball right in here and it's sitting on the ground and the ball is sitting on the ground like this, the depth of low point is going to mean how far down did the golf club work into the turf, okay? So I will always start by saying this. I would much rather, any day of the week, I would much rather have somebody steeper into the turf, ball contact first, before their path gets more neutral and more shallow versus thin shots and hitting behind it. I will always take that as a starting point. So what you'll notice, and I've seen this a lot of times out of players, when they work on a drill like this, and when we give them, like we did in our last video, we gave them our sternum line and we gave them the lead shoulder line, and we're practicing making divots right in here, is what you'll start to see out of a lot of players. If I scoot over right here, and I do an example of this, is we might actually see players getting a little bit steeper. This would be an example, getting a little bit steeper and creating too much depth. So you can see how far down is that divot down there. It's almost covering up my second knuckle. That being said, I still landed the divot where I wanted to, and I still made good contact. We're just going to start to see ball flight issues a lot of times out of this. Okay, and so when we look at the depth of it getting too low, now we can start to go into reasons that the depth would get too low. And we can also go into skills that we can use to get the golf club out of the turf, okay? So if we start right here with reasons, I would say the number one reason a lot of times is going to be that the player has either too much pressure back, so their only source to be able to land a divot in between these two lines is making the direction of the swing come too far from out to in, because if my pressure's back, you can see I can still make a divot in between these two lines if I go from an out to in path, which we can make good contact. We just might not like the result of what the ball flight is. We could see pulls, we could see pull fades, we could see balls that even start right and deflect further right. So we might not like that part of it. So that could be one of the reasons. The real reason that we're going to go into today is a lot of times what happens is the player trying to land this divot in front, they stay down into the ground too long with their knee flex, maybe their hip flex, and their chest gets too low. They might start to short arm it because of that. So the way counterbalances work, if my body is still working down, something is going to have to work up. That would be a counterbalance. So a lot of times we see this look right in here, which creates whatever we want to call it, a chicken wing, but it does give us the ability to land a divot in front. So if you remember one of the first videos that we did a 90-90-90 drill. We're going to add one small piece to it to help better this. So we're going to take where we started, we place the golf club in our belt line, arms extended. We're going to take the center of the pelvis over where the lead shoulder started. And from here, that's going to place 90% of our pressure left. Then we're going to turn the center of the pelvis and the center of the chest the direction of the target. So we would be here. Here's the addition. Now we're going to add vertical. So we're going to add more of an up. So you can see how the leg's extending. And if you watched my belt right here, my belt buckle is working further away from the ground as I'm getting my glutes more tucked underneath me. So I'm getting the center of the pelvis, my glutes more underneath me, which is creating a rise in my belt line. If I keep my knee flex in too long and I keep my hip flex in for too long, and I keep myself into what we would call a forward bend where the chest is down too long, our only source to get the club out of the ground is going to be pulling from the shoulder, the elbow, and the wrist joint. We want to see the opposite. We want to take the body further away from the ground so that the arms have the ability to extend, which is probably going to give us a little bit more source of speed right there. So where I would start with this is we're going to do almost a half swing length motion with quite a bit of speed. And before each shot, I'd like to see you do it like this. Take the club, place it in the belt, and we're going to go up 90, 90, 90 as much as we can. So feel where our destination is. And then we're going to repeat that. So if you watch where my belt gets to and you watch where my lead leg, and you watch how far my chest is now away from my belt versus it being closer to my belt, we're going to project more extension. So more push out of the ground, pelvis up, chest up, head behind the chest, chest in front of the pelvis, chest behind the pelvis. So we'll feel that first, then we're going to start with half length motion. So they'd look like this. We still have our goal of landing a divot in between these two lines here. So you can see I barely touched the ground there. Let's do that again. Barely touched the ground there. So now I actually have more room to actually swing the golf club or throw the golf club the direction of where my target zone is in between my sternum and my lead shoulder line. Then we'd grab a ball. We'll do the same thing there. So I'm going to try and project more extension, more 90-90, and getting it there earlier. We'll give it a go. So that to me was a lot more extension, and I had to get there a lot earlier. So we can see the depth of this divot is significantly different than the depth of this divot. Gives us more room, one, to create counterbalances. So as the body's working forward, around, and upwards, that's giving us more room to extend the arms and the wrists the direction of the golf ball in between our target zone right there. Let's do that again one more time. So right in here, handles forward, place this, 90, 90, 90 with extension. I'm going to give it one feel. That was perfect. Now we'll let it go. And that right there was a phenomenal strike. And so you can see the height of my belt, where my chest is, where my head is. And that's what gives me the ability to extend my arms there. And that was an even more shallow divot than what my previous one was. So there's a cool video for the player. If you start landing your divot in the right location and in the right area, there's a way that we can actually start to manage how far down or how deep the depth of the divot is. I think it's a really neat way to be able to practice this. It really makes the strike a lot better, and it also gives us access to different ball flights, gives us the ability to hit it higher if somebody's struggling with getting their low point more forward and they start to see the golf ball flighting too low. So looking forward to hearing your guys' feedback on this series. I hope you liked it. If you all need anything from me whatsoever, you have any questions, leave those in the comments down below. Appreciate your support. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed this video here. If you haven't, please click that subscribe button. You can also click the bell right there, and that's going to notify you every time that I release a new YouTube video. Also, if you haven't, check out that last video that I did. It's right here, pinned to the screen. Thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, any comments, please leave those below, and I will make sure I get back to each and every one of you. So, thank you again. Appreciate your support. We'll see you next time.